everybody. Welcome to Collateral Benefit on the Zeros on Heroes podcast network. We are both robots. My name's Mike Mercadal. With me, as always, is...
Hey, it's Will Watkins.
Hey, well, smooth. Hey, it's Will Watkins. Hey, thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Collateral Benefit, the podcast that started as a fitness journey, but it's realizing that the fitness journey, like when you improve one area of your life, you find that other areas of your life also improve, hence the name Collateral Benefit. And we like talking about how we can improve our lives, body, mind, and how that reflects in your relationships in your community, right? Like you fix yourself to fix the world, right? High bar, lots of pressure. It started as a pure vanity, just sheer pure vanity, and it's all about the lessons. What is it? The true lesson were the weights we lifted along the way, or something along those lines. But yeah, we're trying to take a non-toxic view of gym culture and how to incorporate it into your life in any way possible.
Yeah, I think right, because it's all about improvement, and improvement is good.
It's all about how the domino effect of improvement, right?
Yeah.
Like even changing, we incorporate mind a lot on the show because it like your outlook on stuff. Like if you go to the gym every day and you're like, this is terrible, I don't want to be here, versus like, hey, all right, I'm going to do it, I'm going to accomplish a goal, I'm going to complete a task. If you do with the first one, you'll get the physical benefits of it. But there is absolutely, anyone who's been an athlete or anything like that knows that there is an absolute mental edge to your body. Like you can psych yourself into physical activity more. Like you can psych yourself into getting one more rep, max doing a PR. You can you can psych yourself into so many things in the same way you can psych yourself out of. I think, psyching out, more predominantly known, psyching in, underrated. You gotta psych in sometimes.
You gotta like fool yourself into doing something productive, and you're like, psych.
You
thought you were gonna be a lazy piece of shit today, but psych,
I got you. You look at you on that treadmill. I tricked you. I tricked you, body, into doing the thing that I said I wanted you to do. But you are also benefiting other aspects of your life. Like that's such an interesting approach to it. I have been struggling with that big time because of again, we talk about the different areas of your life with sleep. Feeling fully rested is such a motivator when you want to do all that stuff. And I'm not fully. Have you ever been fully rested in your adult life? Like, when's the last time you felt fully rested?
There was a moment in time a few months ago where I think it was like 9 hours of sleep.
Whoa, that's
in a night.
Brag. In your 30s and 40s, that's a brag.
Like, usually I'm like averaging at best maybe 6 hours. So like 9 hours was like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it was a good midnight to 9 a.m. almost on the dot both ways. And it was like, oh, I feel like a human being.
Finally. It's like, I always think about the show Gargoyles. When they wake up, at night, of course, it's the sun goes down, but they like the stone cracks off of their surface. You know what I mean? Like that feeling like you're coming out of it. Like there are some times where I've slept so good that it feels like my muscles have to remember how to move again. It's like the Matrix, It's like, why do my muscles? Because you've never used them before. It's like that's the kind of sleep I'm going for, like subconscious, like unconscious, like just full shutdown.
I'd like to see. We should get a clip of the gargoyles when they're peeling the concrete off of their face, but it's just like sleep mask, earplugs, mouth guard. Like you're just taking off all the CPAP mask or whatever it is. Like
there's the CPAP mask. That is my best friend in the world these days. But there's a podcast called My Brother and Me. It's the McElroy brothers. Hopefully just even mentioning that onto the internet somewhere will bring traffic into the algorithm. But there was a thing that this guy's talking about, his sleep talismans, that they're like the magical things, and he wears like carpal tunnel braces on his wrists. He has a cube pillow, which I think I support because I'm a side sleeper. So I need I'm a wide-shouldered side sleeper. So I need elevation on my pillow. But when I roll over, I need that to not be there.
That's like the insult that Robin Williams would have said in Hook. You side sleeper. You wide-shouldered side sleeper.
Oh man! For those of you new to the show, this show was a nerd podcast way before it was a fitness podcast, and I think we've shown our bona fides, bona fides about how nerdy we really are with the stream of references we've just made about incorporating that into I do think that fitness people get a bad rap in the sense of the old school thinking way that they were jocks.
Yeah.
Because the new fitness people are 1000% nerds.
Yeah.
Just full on dorky dweeby nerds who just happen to bench, 400 pounds, it's crazy, right? That feels like a huge societal pivot, right?
In my experience, it's almost like the old school meathead has been sidelined, where now the only people who are gym rats are nerds who love comic books and Dragon Ball Z, or they're gay guys. So it's literally it's literally all the people that the jocks used to make fun of and bully are now the jocks. Meanwhile the jocks all watch football on Sundays and have pot bellies and
yes, interesting shift.
Storm the Capitol and stuff.
the meathead contingent is diminishing, I think, just in terms of people talk about globalization, and I'm I don't think we talk about globalization in the fitness community as much.
Yeah.
As you want to know why? Because there's always the new fitness dorks aren't adhering to old school thinking, or they're going to even further back where they're doing the shit that the Iron Sheik used to do with those, what are they called? I don't know what they're called, but those big weight things. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, geez. They're trying to bring back the way that hipsters were trying to bring back bare feet overall Huck Finn fashion. Oh man, Iron Sheik.
You mean the dumbbells that have the balls on the ends? You mean those?
Yes. Persian Club. The Persian Club. Well, let me see if I can find. Oh shit! I was how do I share this?
Oh, they swing it around the head like sledgehammers. Those kind of things.
Yes, this shit here.
Oh.
78, 9, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 5, 86.
Apparently those things are mad heavy, and they're a super I pointed out that it used to be that you do whatever Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing.
Yeah.
And it was just traditional, weights in the gym and all this bodybuilding, stuff. Then it became World's Strongest Man, where they're how many lead-filled pianos can I throw through that window? and then at a certain point, there's also I think it's interesting how they're every culture has had a bodybuilding fitness challenge. What's the stones that the Scottish people lift?
Oh, the Scottish people have the log throwing, where they do that.
The cave of toss. They have all of these fitness games that are essentially just also workouts. They're just it's just training your body for something. And I think that the nerdy contingent of fitness bros have become also kind of fitness historians. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because that just made me think of the concept of progressive overload, and the way it's explained to people is to go back to ancient Greece when they would have an Olympian or an athlete or a warrior. They would when they were a teenage boy and they would first start training to build muscle, they would get him a calf, like a small cow or a bull. And every day he would put the calf on the back of his shoulders, and he would have to walk up a hill.
Yeah.
And every day he would get bigger, but also the calf would get bigger. So eventually he's just walking up this hill with a full-grown cow on his back, and that's how he would gain muscle. It's less like the progressive overload. The more you lift, the heavier you have to lift, and yada yada yada. So it's like,
It's like the filling buckets of water Shaolin style, like
yeah.
that
So
eventually you get better. You can just you get more water. You feel you're like you persist through that
so
build.
I wonder if they're going to do that like hipster style, if they're going to get rid of all the berry boot camps and just have like a cattle yard, and then we're just walking around Manhattan with cows on their back.
Hey, they got goat yoga.
That's true.
Why not? That is a thing. We try not to disparage people's fitness journeys on here, but that one does not make sense to me. It feels like yoga already. I wish there was. My wife does yoga. They offer it here in my building, and then we also do like the Apple Fitness things where there's a lot of like videos. Yoga. I wish there was secular yoga. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I wish they had. I wish I'm sure it exists out there. It has to. That there's like a yoga that doesn't involve chakras or mysticism in any way. That it's literally just anatomically breaking down what you're doing over time. Like I wish there was like scientific yoga, because I feel like I would be into that, just holding pose, like, because I do feel it. I felt like the core stability, the balance that comes with doing it over and over and over again when I was doing it a lot in New York, that there is like this feeling of like, oh yeah, I 100% feel stronger. I 100% feel more stable. I 100% see the benefit of this. And then they'd be like, and your heart chakra. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like I'm like, I have trouble with that. That's my own like barrier to get past, because to me, I'm a secular person. I don't believe in certain magics or, the supernatural in any way. So whenever that's like, oh, I feel the lengthening, I can feel the stretch, I can feel my back loosening, I can feel my calves and my hamstrings, and I can feel my balance. This is hard. I felt like I'm holding a plank. I can definitely feel the progression. And to have it like derailed a little bit by, my own little like prejudices is like, oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, Katie, my wife, she's a yoga certified yoga instructor. She took the classes and stuff, and she said she was telling me about, especially when she goes down to Florida, I guess some super Christian people don't like doing the Hindu praying to the Hindu gods, because that's part of it. So I guess occasionally they'll be like, you're a saint or whatever, and but she did the goat yoga, and she said it was a fun experience, but it tore up her back, like,
because
they have the hooves.
The hooves. They're on the. I don't know, man. It just
if you go to Instagram, it's just like she posted a thing of like just bruises all on her back.
Oh my goodness, it's so interesting to me. Like, because gym bros are notoriously guilty of overdoing it, right? Like you especially in. I mean, we here at Collateral Benefit, Zero Zone Heroes, and Mike and Will, we expressly hate the filming of other people in the gym. Y'all can go fuck yourselves with that. That's an insane violation. Like anyone who tries to justify it, like you should just be like, yeah, I'm videotaping someone who does, like it's wrong what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The idea that those videos come out of the people who are like doing these crazy, the cable ones where they're like jumping in the air and they're doing they're using machines wrong, or the classic ones, they put like the squat rack on top of the bar, it's all this crazy shit, like the people who do the stunt workouts, right? They're a lot of the times therefore
just the viral hits.
Yeah, it's attention seeking, but it's an exaggeration of an existing thing. Goat yoga feels the same way. It's like, I mean, cool. I love goats. I love animals. I love them as living beings. They also taste delicious. I mean, like, I don't know, but I would never incorporate that into my workout where they're like they're disrupting it. Like they're forcing you to like flinch and do things, and I feel like, I don't know, it feels weird to me. But
it's funny you brought those up, because the thing about the people doing weird exercises, the benches and stuff, and I think it did start out as like they're making fun of people who do viral style, and people who are just trying to get because in order to build muscle, just go to the classics, push this, squat this. And I was actually this morning, today was chest day at the gym, and I've been focusing a lot on my shoulders, but I've been kind of neglecting my chest, especially my upper chest, the clavicular portion. So I was like, oh, let me go on YouTube and find some good videos. I found one from Athlete X from a few years ago, and usually he's got he's a PT, he's a physical therapist kind of guy. But I did notice at one point he did start getting to the viral, just trying to make a viral thing so that he can get shares or whatever. And the whole video was just full of these. And like at one point he had his feet up on the wall and he had dumbbells and he was doing and I was like, bro, there's so many. I know there are better ways. This is just you trying to throw it's not optimal. This is not a good thing.
Yeah, you said so. It's getting into the show. You talk about you sent me a video of these dudes, the buff dudes.
Buff dudes, yeah.
Buff dudes. You sent this video, and it's about this guy. He tried to boosting his low testosterone, which I was tested low. I'm waiting to go back to an endocrinologist because of health insurance, and healthcare in the United States is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And I have to wait till like October. But I have an appointment to go follow up to see what to do about it. And you sent me this video without knowing that we talked about it, but just kind of in general.
Like 4 or 5 episodes ago, yeah.
Yeah, and we've been like waiting for a minute to talk about it. But one of the things he focuses on, he talks about at the end of the video, like the whole series of videos for these guys, buff dudes on YouTube, is they trying to boost their testosterone naturally. Yeah. And all of the things that are it's like food, mood, workouts, and sleep.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he just straight up says, "It's the stuff we've been saying this whole time.
Yeah,
it's the boring, it's the basic, it's the straightforward. It's just the commitment to doing those things with the, I guess the mindset is also like the kind of the goal." But yeah, and I was just watching the video before we went on, and I was like, it really does boil down to that.
Yeah, and he by doing all the quote unquote natural things you're supposed to be doing, he went up like 200 points.
Which, as somebody who is not doing those things, I'm like, I wonder, what it is. Saying something is natty or not natty or if you're on gear or testosterone replacement therapy like TRT, those all feel like there's a spectrum. There's like a wide range of what the goal, depending on what your goals are.
Yeah.
Me personally, there's some just inherent like mine is not necessarily muscle growth, but it would be interesting to see. I don't know when my testosterone went down. I don't know at what point in my life what I was doing that the testosterone went down. But at certain times in my life, it was mad. And I've never done any kind of gear or testosterone, any kind of hormone messing with my hormones. Anymore. I don't even take melatonin because I'm afraid to mess with the number, the things.
Oh yeah. Me too.
Because talking to a friend of mine who was on gear and has had to then. He says it's like the roller coaster where, you're speeding down the hill, but then eventually you got to go, you have to figure out a way to get back to normal, to get back to flat with your testosterone, because otherwise your body just stops making it, just you've been augmenting it externally that your body's like, well, I guess I don't need to make any.
Yeah.
And then now you have to recuperate all of that through that process. I've always been afraid of that. So like, to me, natural would be a great way to do it, but it's also like a fair amount of work.
Yeah.
Like sprints, where am I going to sprint? Sleep. I work night shifts, so we do not dissuade people from taking making personal choices to take certain shortcuts over others, as long as they're done with the knowledge of what comes with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting too, because it does even more so than just your physical body. It does affect your mental health. Larry Wheeler, I think it was Larry Wheeler, said he's quitting I think Mike Israel did too, where they both said they're quitting because it was affecting their mental health, where they were just constantly no joy, all rage, all.
Yeah.
It went from either angry to depressed and back and forth between those two, and it's like, is the pursuit of bodybuilding worth the effect it's having on myself and my relationships?
Right. It's again, I think that it was important for us when we started talking about this to this topic, when we started doing the show, to talk about the mind of it all, because everyone talks about how like, oh, physical fitness will improve depression, or because that was one of the things we were both working on, we've both been working on in our lives for a while. That it's like, oh yeah, physical activity will reduce your depression symptoms, right? Like you feel more active, you have a little more vitality, you have maybe a goal setting, stuff in the future that improves your optimism, stuff like basic stuff. But like anything, the obsession with certain aspects of it can have negative impacts on your mental. Like people who become, I think the current one of the current jokes, memes of online is, I saw a video of how a girl prepares her meals, does meal prep,
Oh yeah.
and 16 different meals, and then it's just literally like a man just smashing meat into a fucking frying pan and being like, like this is it, like where the obsession with end result destroys the joy of the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you're always chasing this destination, this goal that you yourself will inherently move the goalposts once you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So then the process is lost. The joy of the process is lost on you. And then all of a sudden you're like, now you're shredded, you're super in shape, and you're still depressed because you can't meet your goals. It's like, wait, your goals need to be redefined then. Like you have to like you've snake eating its own tail situation,
Yeah.
You're like, because now you have everything you always have. It's like one of those things, be careful what you wish for because you may get it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's always this balance between like what you're doing for your body and how your mind perceives it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the other day I was eating some pizza, and someone in the lunchroom said, you're in pretty good shape, but if you stopped eating that pizza, you could be shredded. And I was like, yeah, but if I was shredded, that means I'd have to stop eating pizza. I want to eat the pizza. The pizza's good. The pizza brings me joy.
Do you think my goal is to not eat pizza in my life?
Yeah.
Who thinks like this? Who wants this? We're all trying to just eat pizza and still be shredded. Like that's the balance. That's the universal balance of life.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And it's also funny when people like genuinely, I am a firm believer that you should not comment on anyone's appearance if they cannot fix it in 10 seconds. If you got 10 minutes, like if someone's got a booger in their nose, absolutely tell them. Someone got something in their teeth. Oh, you have a little lint on your shirt. Not, hey, your haircut is weird. It's like, I can't do anything about that right now. Hey, if you'd be shredded if you ate that pizza. Oh, really? Right now? Like if I put this pizza down, I'm immediately going to drop body fat? No, like there's nothing about that there's something about that comment that is helpful, right? Like,
yeah,
like you who are a physical specimen of a man don't know this? Like, come on.
Yeah, I get that all the time. I get that feeling all the time when I'll be eating the cheeseburger or something. And somebody will go, "Hey, do you know what's in that? Do you think I don't? Like, do you think I don't understand what I'm putting into my body at this point? Do you think nobody knows that certain food items? Oh, this cake is not good for me." Or
I will, first of all, cheeseburgers, I will die. We've talked about this.
Oh, yeah.
I will die on this hill that cheeseburgers are not bad for you. Cheeseburgers are genuinely a balanced meal. They carb, protein, vegetables, and if you're depending on how you construct it, the burger itself is a perfectly reasonable meal. And there are ways to health it up too. There are ways to make it nice, but it is a perfectly reasonable meal. So when everybody's like, oh, cheeseburgers, I'm like, do you know what's in there? It's like, yeah, a balanced meal is in there. Between the bread, it's handheld. All right, I'm sorry. I get a little passionate about my burgers and the disrespect you're not gonna you're not gonna go to McDonald's or Burger King and expect a gourmet burger. But if I'm making a burger at home with meat that I ground myself and fresh vegetables and
You grind your own meat?
I don't normally, but I
Oh.
have in the past.
Wow.
Well, I bought this is because I'm also cheap. So I buy the big cuts of meat and I trim whatever, and I buy I did it one time as an experiment, and you don't need a grinder actually. You could just like kind of chop it up, whatever,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and then make patties with the fat. You can actually then balance the lean the lean meat to fat ratio yourself.
Make it a 90-10 if you wanted, yeah.
Make it. I mean, that's a terrible burger. There's ways to. My perfect burger is 85-15. 85-15, and if you want to do a little clarified butter, a little, but that's my own personal take on it. But if I have one of those, if I have two of those, I still think it's better than a burger and fries and the like, maybe not Diet Coke, but like people who get like a full soda or a milkshake or whatever. It's like, yeah, the burger is not the problem here. I think you're focused on the wrong part of the equation. The fries and the milkshake are the problem.
Yeah.
The burger is. I'm a burger defender, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like, do you know what's in that burger? Yeah, 80 grams of protein.
Yeah. What's in that Celsius energy drink you're drinking? The supposedly healthy one. Like that's the one thing I think is like that the only reason you should be looking in your neighbor's bowl is to make sure they have enough. You should never be looking to critique or judge or whatever. It's like, do you have enough to eat? Yes. If it's full of poison, maybe say something. But other than that, like, hey man, you don't know their circumstances. You don't know, these people. Like, if I'm eating a burger, what if I have I'm anemic and this is the first meat I've eaten in 20 years and I'm doing it to improve my health because of whatever reason?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. If it's not a compliment, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It always gets me because it's also like that Kevin James joke where I hate getting weight loss advice from people who are bigger than me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like, like you are, even to me, like you are the guy that I look to for fitness advice, right? You're experienced, you have the results also to show for it. You not only like have the, let me boost you up a little bit. You've made not only progress, but you've made progress, you've fallen out and then recovered again. You've also found balance where it fits into it's not an obsessive thing where you found it balance where mentally. And now you're sharing that knowledge with me. This is the embodiment of the show, right? Like taking your body fitness building experience, making it a healthy balance within your own life, and then sharing it with others. And that's why I'm not I don't refer to me unless it's like paramedic level medical advice. But for fitness and stuff, you are the expert on the show for this show.
Oh, wow.
You are technically. So when someone comes up to you to say something, I'm like, they better look like fucking Fight Club Brad Pitt. They better look like Lou Ferrigno. You know what I mean? Like they better have some sort of visual credits to their statement. You know what I mean? Like, okay.
Yeah, I get that occasionally, and at first I would just play along. Where some glory days, 50-something-year-old dude would say, "Hey, you know what you could do to make that better?" I would go, "Oh, interesting. I'll take that advice." And and now when they come up and they say, "Hey, you know what? No, I'm done. We're not doing this." The other day, I think I tweeted about it too, where it was this is like a month or so ago, but like a middle-aged woman came up to me and said, like, "Hey, can I say something that might help you?" And I said, "You don't have to say anything. Like, you can just you don't have to say anything at all.
You don't have to say anything. No one has to say." Maybe she was just trying to strike up a conversation with the handsome blonde boy in the gym, but it's also like, read the room. Yeah. What ended up happening?
I just said, "No, you don't have to say anything," and she just walked away. And throughout, if we ever walked past, she would make sure she didn't look at me or my direction. It was
Interesting.
she, looked at the ground, did the whole look everywhere except at me kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, avert your eyes.
Now I'm curious as to what you would have said, but it is a fair, like, it is interesting how a lot of social interactions start with criticism
Yeah, it
of
is.
strangers. Like, why is that a thing? Why is our first impulse to comment on something? Like, I understand a lot of times you're trying to share some knowledge, you're trying to share knowledge in a way that would benefit someone,
Hmm.
and you view it as like a harmless thing. My wife and I talk about this all the time. That's a thing that I do. I'm a know-it-all guy. I think gifted kid syndrome, that thing where I'm like, I learned a lot as a child. I have to share it. That's been my whole life. So the energy in which I approach things, I've had to, like, throughout years in my life, learn to just be more curious than like, what's the word I'm thinking, where I'm giving advice. I
Yeah.
have to be more curious, to ask more questions, rather, because I feel like that's a much more less, or like a much less abrasive way to start a conversation. Like the whole negging thing with dudes that would try to
Yeah.
flirt with girls. Like, why is that? Like, it's so crazy to me.
I've thought about this, and I think it has to do with, because I have social anxiety,
Mm.
that I don't, on a one-on-one basis, I will not go up to a random stranger and talk to them or strike up a conversation.
Mm.
But I find that people who don't have that, who are willing to talk to a complete stranger and approach them, usually have a sense of superiority about themselves, where they're saying, I
Mm.
am gifting you with my conversation.
Right. Yeah.
So in the sense of, at the gym, when they come up to you, I'm gifting you with my conversation and my wisdom that I am totally an expert in. Even, how many times have you met somebody who claims to be an expert in something? It's just because they skimmed a Wikipedia article a long time ago, and or they listened to a podcast and now they know all about this subject.
That's my
And
plot. That's like the of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Of course I know him. He's me. I had to stop doing that. Like, that was the thing. My 20s was a lot of that. Like, me speaking. That's why I got into comedy, because I was like, I need to share my opinions with people. Like, and then you learn or some people don't, but you should learn that, how to navigate that, because it's not necessarily a universally well received energy. Like,
yeah,
it's tricky.
and I do feel like when it's the dude who's above the age of 50 who
Mm.
will approach me at the gym and occasionally give me unsolicited advice. For instance, there was an example, was I was doing uh, uh, upright presses on a Smith machine, and I was focusing on this is a couple of weeks ago, but this is focusing on my upper chest, the clavicular portion. So when you do that on the Smith machine, you just go up a little bit to right about there, and you bring it back down, kind of like
Like, you're not doing a full range of
yeah,
motion
you're doing
exercise.
you're
You're
doing
isolating. Yeah.
yeah, you're just going for the short and partial right there. Because once you go past that, now you're transferring it to the triceps and to the shoulders and stuff.
Right.
So just keep it right there. And so this guy came over and said, "Hey, you got to go all the way up, full range of motion." It's like, wow, that's great if you're doing a full upper body and blah blah. But then you get traps involved and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Man, you kids today," and he muddled and walked off. But it
Kids
was like,
today.
bro, there's new advancements in science, man. You can't be so stuck. And
Yeah.
then come up and tell people what they're doing is wrong, even though you have no idea what you're doing.
Right. Like, you also, and I use this example a lot. I was recovering from a back injury and a neck pain. Like I was recovering from very, like, specific injuries. So I was doing specific exercises at the gym, including like upright row and like like all trying to build up as much of my neck as I can and shoulders. And I was doing certain exercises, and this guy comes up to me, is like, "Oh, I've never seen that. Like, how would that work out in real life?" Also, this guy did not look like he should be giving advice. I don't
Yeah.
want to be rude, but like, yeah, like, I understand that we're all on our own journeys, and I don't know your story, but you don't know mine. And I looked at him dead in his eyes, like, "Well, I'm recovering from a back injury and a
Yeah.
neck injury." And then I could see in his face, there's that, "Oh, that would have changed every comment preceding that conversation." You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Yeah. You don't know my medical history.
you
You
don't
don't
know my
know.
medical, exactly. oh, I was paralyzed and now I'm slowly coming out of it and I need to be able to do certain things. This is part of physical therapy. This is part of my medical recovery. It's like whatever it is that you don't know, you're still responsible for having assumed when you say something. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing of like trigger warnings and stuff like that, where a lot of people, like, of course, some conservative asshole, is going to make fun of trigger warnings and pronouns and stuff like that. But it's also just like, oh, I'm gifting you the knowledge so that you don't have to make assumptions about me. I'm gifting you this information. I'm gifting you the knowledge that I'm recovering from an injury. I don't have to tell you shit. I could be like, okay, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I could, because you don't know who I am. Why would you critique something about me? That is inherently a negative starting point.
I would also add on to that 100% of the people who do give me unsolicited advice, I've never seen them in the gym before.
Oh, interesting.
Like the people who I see regularly at the gym, even if I've never had a conversation with them or interacted with them, leaves everybody alone. Like actual gym people respect everybody else's privacy. They respect everybody else's journey. They're on their own thing because we've all been through the, not the same thing, but along the same lines of, you've had to overcome things at the gym. You've had to work on this aspect. You've had, have mobility issues. You have this injury. So I understand you have your thing. I have my thing. I'm not going to tell you how to do your thing.
Or but at the very least, you come up to somebody. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you just come up, you ask a question like, oh, hey, that's an interesting workout. What are you focused there? What's your goal there?
Yeah.
I'm recovering from an injury. It's like, oh, okay. And now the conversation starts from a place of curiosity, interest, conversation, no judgment. There's so much to be said for that. I'm sorry, I don't. What were you gonna say?
No, that was your same thing.
Yeah, like the idea of the people who know, right? Like, it reminds me a lot of like those dudes that will go into boxing gyms and claim to be professional street fighters, and then just get their asses handed to them by. There's one guy in particular. He's like a viral kind of. I get a lot of these fight videos. Former guest of Zeros on Heroes a million years ago, Diego Lopez, MMA fighter. Also, he does an awesome series on his Instagram called No Violence, KNOW, where he breaks down viral videos of street fights using his knowledge as an expert in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he was an MMA fighter. He won championships or whatever. And there's a video of this dude that goes in and he challenges people to boxing matches at the gym. It's like the same thing. It's like, you come in here, you're a guest. If you're new anywhere, you're a guest. I would assume that if you go into someone's house, you'd be like, you don't just like start moving their furniture around.
Yeah.
And be like, the feng shui in here is pretty fucking terrible. I'm gonna have to move your whole thing around. Oh, I'm throwing away this and this, that. You don't make choices like that for other people. Don't come into my workout and start moving furniture around. Like, you're a bad guest in my presence. You're a bad guest in my life for that moment. You're starting in a bad place. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's the community advice for today. Don't be a bad guest in other people's lives.
Yes, that's pretty good. That's pretty good advice.
You know what? I am writing that down, actually. Don't be a bad guest in other people's lives. I want to show this video because I've been doing a lot of body weight exercises in recovery, trying to I've been losing weight. So I'm kind of doing the reverse thing of the cow, where I'm getting stronger, but doing body weight, but my body is getting lighter, thus making the exercise easier. And I want to show this. This is pretty impressive.
Oh, this one, I've seen it. Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay. Okay. The bar is at his knees. This is not a muscle up. This is like a muscle defying gravity situation. Like, this is wild to me how much air he's getting from what is essentially a pull up, like a lat pull down muscle up situation. Like, that much momentum from a pull-up.
Yeah, what gets me is there's no struggle involved in this. There's no exertion. It's just like he's tying his shoe. That's the
Yeah.
amount of stress he's putting on himself right there. This guy has got to be some sort of bird creature with hollow bones. that
He has to have hollow bones.
that he can just throw himself like that through the air. And
It's
just he
so
hovers at
cool.
one point.
Yeah, it does feel like he has that proverbial hang time, the Air Jordan-ness of it all. Where's the other? Because he does something else. Yeah, this part. That to me is also incredibly impressive as someone with like my spine would blow out of my asshole at this point. It's just like crazy to me. Also, I like that he's wearing socks.
Yeah.
You got to lighten the load a little bit. No shoes.
Well, yeah, if he was wearing shoes, he would be able to do this.
Yeah, look, I mean, just like fascinating stuff there with how I mean, I just don't get it. The gravity of it all, the hollow bones of it all. But I'd just like to inform you, that's my new fitness goal. to be able to not just pull up, muscle up, but pull up and just defy gravity for a couple seconds and then kind of come back down. This is like straight anime shit. This is like Goku fucking Naruto shit. I loved it so much. I just want to share that video. When you do your heavy weight, is there a part of you that feels like it translates to like, could you do some of these like calisthenics things, or do you need more balance or support from the accessory muscles used in the like if you isolate bench, do you feel like you could then do a handstand and hold yourself, or like let's say you're good at military press, right? You can do your body weight plus.
Mm-hmm.
Could you then translate that to a handstand, or do you feel like balance has more to do with it for stuff like this?
Well, it's interesting because, for instance, if you were to do a pull-up, where you're doing you're just pulling yourself up there, you could also improve your pull-up by doing like a bent over row where you're increasing the strength in your lats and your traps and everything. So that's what helps you pull up when you, especially if you do a wide grip, you're hitting your traps and your lats and everything. So it's like, yeah, it does help to do functional movements and stuff like that, to do cursory, is that what the word cursory?
I don't know what word you're
cursory exercises, but it's exercises that aren't related to the main lift. But
I don't.
I
don't know what the word is. I know there's a word. I know what you're. I don't know the word you're thinking, but I do know that it's like that.
Like supplementary exercises that'll help.
Yeah.
For instance, if you want to have a stronger bench press, you could do dumbbell flies, or you could do cable flies, or you could do push-ups even. I mean, there's a perfect example right there. Push-ups. If you're really good on the bench, you'd be really good on doing push-ups and stuff.
Yeah, I always call them accessory muscle. Like
accessory, yeah, I think that's the word I'm looking for.
That's a paramedic term. Like when you have trouble breathing, that your diaphragm can no longer pull enough air in, you start to use your chest, the muscles, the intercostal muscles of your chest to expand your rib cage to try and pull more air in. That is a sign of somebody who's struggling to breathe, asthma, stuff like that, where you can actually see the muscles in their ribs working.
Is that a legit term, like accessory?
That's the term for accessory muscle use, is like when you're having so much trouble breathing that you use those muscles that aren't normally used in the effort to do it.
Yeah, that's
I don't think that is it. I don't think it translates directly.
I think it is, because it's they're both medical science, so it's like the accessory muscles, accessory exercises to
accessory
help
exercise. Yes.
Yeah. All right, see,
we found it
when we need EMT advice.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. It is an effort of like trying to balance. This is also another thing that happens at work all the time, because my knowledge of emergency medical intervention is to a certain level, but the emergency part is very important, because in the hospital there's a lot more patients involved, like patients with a CE at the end, not patients in the person sense, but like where they start from the bottom up with intervention. They do the least aggressive intervention to try and find out where they don't want to overload it. But in the emergency setting, you aim high and you come down to, because we got to get you to the hospital where other people will then take over your longer term care.
Yeah.
So I think about that, knowing where the limits of my knowledge are. And it's kind of like, spread throughout the rest of my life. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm sitting there talking about like, oh, this person's heart rate is this way, blah, 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 blah. There's a million other, extenuating circumstances for each patient and all that stuff. But from my experience, my impulse is always to like jump on it, give meds, do this, do that, do that.
Yeah.
But in the hospital setting, the doctors are in charge. So they are the ones that are over a longer period of time watching stuff. And they're watching trends, and they're watching like different levels and all that stuff. Mine is like very different. So
like when somebody comes in with like, my heart's feeling a little weird, you're like, adrenaline straight to the heart every single time. It's like, no, I think I have it on sleep.
I have it on a holster, like a quick draw, like shopping, get in there. But the idea of, but that is a real thing. Like, when someone is like with muscle growth, they always talk about like damaging the muscle is why it grows, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to hurt to heal. That process is a very, like, if your mindset is the kind of mindset that is adrenaline to the heart every time,
Mm-hmm.
you're thinking on a shorter timeline than what is probably healthy.
Yeah.
If you're doing gear, you're thinking on a shorter timeline. You're not thinking on the whole, like your whole life. You know what I mean? You're only taking into consideration your 20s when you want to look your best, but you're not taking into consideration how much your blood chemistry and your hormone imbalances are going to affect your later life. Not that I did that. I was just afraid, a full-on fear of testosterone.
Yeah.
But the limits of my knowledge for fitness encourage me to be more curious about things than what I used to know, where it was like squat as heavy as you can and get as strong as you can, and fuck your spinal discs, fuck your nerves and your sciatica. Like it was literally just lift, and then now years later, it's like, okay, I did not know everything.
Yeah.
And reaching that point, I think, is also kind of important in terms of fitness and weight loss, of like knowing that you know nothing, that kind of thing, or be like, we were talking about those older dudes that are unwilling to accept new advice.
Yeah.
Just being curious is such a vital tool to not only fitness, but like just in general, like interacting with people, learning, about new cultures, politics.
Yeah.
All that stuff, just having a curiosity is like gathering as much information as you can without a prejudice is also like, I think, a key element.
Oh yeah. Without the prejudice is good. Because I think if you're going in with an idea already formed in your mind, you're not willing to accept I think that goes along with what you're talking about, the person who's going to give you unsolicited advice and has the high opinion of themselves, and I'm gifting them with my knowledge. Like, they're not going to want to get any pushback.
Yeah.
I saw a good meme the other day that was like, I'm trying to teach my parents that talking back is how adults have conversations, where it's just not like like when you're a kid, you accept the fact that the parent is going to be the one who's saying everything, and if talking back is frowned upon, but it's like, that's how adults have conversations, is the discourse. You talk, I talk, we exchange ideas. That's what the conversations are. It's, oh, you make a good point.
Yeah, that is a very real, like, when you were young, you thought adults knew all the rules.
Yeah.
Like there was some sort of set of rules, like a rule book was handed to you when you turned 18 or something like that. And that's not the case, right? Like there's plenty of people who never leave high school, and they gossip, and they are those kind of people who are listening, waiting for their turn to talk, not to receive information.
Yeah.
Does that mean, like, that to me is one of the more frustrating things. I am guilty of that as an ADHD person, newly discovering all of, like, it's like, again, we talk about it when you start, like, now that I'm being treated for ADHD and I am thinking about it, I'm conscious of it. so many images of my past. It's like a movie where there's like some reveal of like, oh, this was the murderer, the Kaiser Soze. Oh my God. And then you start remembering, you're like, oh, that no wonder this relationship didn't work, or no wonder I bombed at this, in social setting.
Yeah.
No wonder this thing, and one of them was the ADHD impulse to share your personal anecdote to show that I get it, man. I understand you. I had a similar experience, and I fully understand what you're saying. I'm receiving that information. I'm so excited to share my own personal thing to show that we have something in common. But you skip that whole explanation, and you're like, yeah, you, but me. You, that's the Brian Regan joke, the me monster, like it's like, yeah, you, but me, me. Like that concept is kind of revelatory when you're suddenly like, oh no, oh, I feel bad. I wish I could go apologize to everyone I've done that to.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
One of my favorite kitsch expressions is the God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You got to listen more than you talk. That's how you learn.
Yes, that is getting written down as well. 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's too close to 2 girls, 1 cup. But we'll go from there. Yeah, the idea of listening more than you talk. I mean, this is also coming from 2 dudes with a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, well. It's off mic, off camera, 2 ears, 1 mouth. we're here to say whatever we want into microphones. And like we say every week, we would be doing this whether or not anybody was watching, because we enjoy each other's company and we enjoy it's like therapy.
Yeah. It is.
It does really help motivate me for the week, whenever we do this. As week I was like kind of listless and I wasn't really working out, and it really had the motivation, and it was because I didn't talk to Will this week.
Well, it's funny because I've actually talked to my therapist about this podcast, and she still hasn't listened. No, I was like, I said the same thing. It's kind of like therapy. And she goes, no, it is therapy. Like there are different forms of therapy.
Sure.
Like you can go to a therapist, but having conversation with a family member, having conversation with a friend, going, I used to say, Irish people don't go to therapists. They just talk to a bartender. That is, talking to a bartender is a form of therapy. It is the confessional booth.
Yeah. Anything can be therapy, but not all therapy is beneficial. Because some, you know what I mean? Like that's like going to like a booty call. That was one of the things that I used to, when I was, I'm not ashamed to admit this. I am ashamed of it in the past, but like, in my young life, my young adult life, I was very close and very like in the trajectory of incel culture. Like nice guys. Oh, no girl wants a nice guy. Real like fat kid shit. You know what I mean? Like real like self-hate projected into other people. And I went through that phase of like, girl, like there was the friend zone and all that stuff, like just real toxic thinking, but of the era, that was all that people talked about. And it was the thing of like, well, girls, have guys have the friend zone and girls have the booty call. And I don't necessarily agree with these, generalizations now, but I do think of that as a form of therapy. Unhealthy therapy, where you're trying to soothe some sort of thing in your brain in some way through externally, right? Like people who self-medicate with cocaine or heroin or meth or whatever, they're trying to address some sort of faulty wiring in their thinking or in their chemistry that they need an external source. This is what they have learned. Right? Like they've learned that this is what's acceptable behavior, either through societal conditioning, through cultural norms, or through experimentation in their own, unhealthy ways. Some people find, like I was jokingly, I was like, man, if I had done meth in my 20s, maybe I would have accidentally discovered my ADHD, where all of a sudden I smoke a bunch of meth and I'm like, wow, I've gotten so much done today. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Amphetamines, speed, are what I'm on now, if I had done speedballs in my fucking youth, it would have been like, oh, wait a minute.
Wow, I did my taxes on time.
Oh, hey, what's happening here? Why is all my laundry done and folded? But the idea being like the friend zone is a form of soothing some sort of seeking validation in other people. Booty calls in the same way physically, like hookup culture is like a form of like soothing something. So anything that is therapeutic to something that hurts is a form of therapy, but not all of it has positive benefits long term. In my uneducated opinion, it's just personal experience, but because it does feel that way.
Yeah, I think it also goes along with the idea of discernment, because there are very for instance, let's keep with the gym, where it's like, oh, the gym is my therapy, and people, at one point I was going to the gym 7 days a week for months on end, and that's not good. No. You need rest days, you need days off to recoup and recover, because your muscles are actually built on the rest days. They're not built on the days you're working out. So it's like even good therapy can become bad if it's used incorrectly. Yeah.
Discernment is, I think, your mind goal today. Recognizing the obsession, recognizing the negatives in the therapy. Like not all therapy is beneficial. My therapist that I see now, I've bonded with because he has had spinal fusions.
Oh.
And we were talking about it, like he was like, this is not I'm not giving a medical endorsement. I'm like, no, man, this is personal. This is just as valuable to me as a human being with back problems. Yeah. Sharing their experience is also separate from your job as a therapist. Like I need this, I crave this information from somebody who has personal experience, separate from whatever authority you have, And we have breaks like that in our conversation all the time, where he separates the role. He's like, this was me asking questions as a therapist, because I feel like that's a good therapist asks a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Not like Socratic method type stuff, where leading you to a discovery in your own mind, like Inception, like leading you to come up with I feel like that's a good therapist does that. Yeah. And he does. But then he'll say, pause, hold on. And he says his name. He's like, as me personally, this is an experience, in terms of like, I remember it affecting my interpersonal relationships with all the back pain stuff that he was talking about. And I'm like, yes, like when you have a chronic pain, it permeates and kind of spreads throughout every aspect of your life, whether you want it to or not. You're still always underlying discomfort. Like, it also came up with the tinnitus I have in my ear, where it's like, that's always present. I'm never not hearing it. So sometimes it's louder than others. And in those moments, I have to remember that no one else is dealing with that but me.
Yeah.
Don't project it onto anyone. And then he'll cut right back to therapist mode, whatever it is. And I respect him for that a lot. So that's built a lot of trust, where you can discern the differences and the boundaries that are required for that.
Yeah, that's good that he says that kind of stuff. Like it's kind of like whenever somebody is people ask about personal training and stuff like that, and always if they're wanting to lose weight, I always make the recommendation that they find a personal trainer who used to be fat. Because it's like, especially if it's like some personal trainer in their early 20s and they got the chiseled abs and whatever, and it's like, yeah, but were they fat?
Yeah,
were they fat first? It's I heard somebody talk about when people choose personal trainers, it's and they choose the most fit, insanely shredded person. It's like going to a dentist because they have perfect teeth.
Right.
It's like, yeah, sometimes the personal trainer you want to go to doesn't have the shredded abs, and you want to go to somebody who's knowledgeable.
Well, there's a reason AA sponsors are also addicts and alcoholics. Like, there's a reason. Like, you gotta. Who do you want to give you advice? Somebody who's never been there.
Yeah.
You got to go, like somebody who's also experienced in the process you're doing. Like that's why, like in the fire service, all the educators in the fire academy are firefighters, former firefighters. What are they going to hire somebody who's never touched a fire hydrant to teach that? Of course not. Why would fitness be any different? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why would you? There's certain people who are, I don't. This is a gross, simplification of it, but like the pretty privilege. Like those people who have pretty privilege that they think life is a barrel of sunshine and rainbows, and they're like, why is everyone having such a bad time? I'm having a great time. And it's because inherently there's this subjective kind of thing of your only your perspective only includes your experience.
Yeah.
And then everything else is theoretical, right? Or anecdotal. Like you're just hearing other people's stories, but your personal story is one of like, people are always nice to me. I don't see what the problem is. Why does everybody have such a bad attitude? And then if you go through life thinking that it's not because you're attractive, it's like white privilege or like any kind of like inherent privilege that you've had your whole life, you will never know the difference.
It's the Lucille Bluth. It's a banana. How much could it cost? $10?
$10? Yeah. The idea that anything other than your own personal experience is crazy. Are you going to then take advice from someone who's never shared your personal experience? I mean, not on certain topics. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that guy will have a great conversation. Like if I hire a super shredded trainer, his maintenance stuff is probably really good advice because he's still that, he can maintain it. I, in my 20s, did not look like that. I had not maintained it. You know what I mean?
When you get, if you had some dudes in their early 20s, shredded, cannonball shoulders, all that stuff, I think it'd be good. They obviously know things. If you went to a guy with steroids and he was just monstrously strong, he still knows how to get those muscles. He just had a lot of help getting there.
Right.
But it's a lot of it too comes with the psychological aspect of losing weight, where it's like that person doesn't know the anxiety and the stress and the depression that goes along with, somebody brought in cake to work.
Yes, dude. Oh my God, I'm going through that right now. Every day, there's always something on the night shift. We are fucking raccoons and goblins. We are just constantly shredding garbage through our faces all night. It's terrible.
So it's, that person, the shredded person, does not understand the torment of not eating the fun things.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh, I know it, I understand because, I'll have a carrot cake on my birthday. Of course, I'm not going to not have carrot cake on my birthday. And it's like, my brother in Christ.
What are you talking? Carrot cake on your birthday? What are you, Amish? There's so many questions that come up, and not to say that person's opinions aren't valid. Everyone's opinion is an insight into their experience and perspective. Like that's what it is. That's what an opinion is for. Like people don't like. Science is just consensus of reality, right? So like when you have health science, which we've talked about on the show before, that we're like babies when it comes to medicine, health and fitness. We we don't, a calorie as what's on a nutrition label has nothing to do with what your body does to it. It has everything to do with what happens when they shoot it with a laser. You know what I mean? Like that's the definition of a calorie. Like it's a measurement of heat used to burn with a laser. Like it has nothing to do with the breakdown in your body. It has nothing to do with it. It's literally just chemistry and physics. Which your body is also just chemistry and physics, but it's adapting that knowledge to then try to put it into practice. It can't be a one-for-one thing. Like we don't know a lot of things. The second you understand that we're just all trying to figure out a consensus when it comes to health and fitness, everybody's just giving their 2 cents. And some people are bad actors. They're just trying to capitalize on it and give bad advice or advice that is just it's good advice unintentionally. It benefits me financially, so take my opinion of it being good with a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a video you shared in the note thing with the old lady who was eating.
Oh yeah, let me find it.
And it kind of goes along with what we were talking about, about like what a calorie is. Like if you went back in time to like the 1700s or the 1500s or whatever, and you saw somebody eating oats and porridge and barley and said, "Hey, how many calories are in that?" They'd go, "What the fuck is a calorie?"
They're like, "What? I need energy to go farm.
Like
I'm trying to survive the winter."
Like the lady in the video is the old lady on a farm or whatever, and she was like, "Oh, I wake up in the morning, I have 4 slices of toast and a bowl of." Oh, you found it? Here we go. Yeah.
This lady's 100 years old, by the way.
What you had for breakfast?
Well, I had 6 slices of bread, toasted in butter, and 2 eggs, flattened out, and a big bowl of strawberries. So that's my breakfast. 2 cups of coffee, and a glass of orange juice. That'll last me till 3 o'clock or so. Then I'll get hungry. Then I gotta eat. That's when I have to eat my main meal, so that I get some energy.
Energy, right?
Get my proper nourishment. And then late in the evening, I eat a bowl of ice cream to top it.
That's the best. So let's just recap: 6 pieces of toast, toasted with butter. But then
she didn't say toasted with butter. She said toasted in butter, which makes me believe, and this is one of my favorite ways to make toast, is to make them almost like grilled cheeses, where you put butter in a frying pan and then you just toast them in the pan, like griddle style.
Yeah. Griddle toast, and like Cubans, we do toast on a thing we call la plancha. It's like the press. But not a panini. It doesn't have the grill. It's like flat, right? So you do the toast on the press, and it gives it that full. It's not just heat. It's the grill, like the frying essentially in the fat. The fat emulsifies and the proteins break down on the surface of the toast. It's beautiful. I love it. But I also want to talk about the language that she uses. This is a 100-year-old person. She eats 6 pieces of toast toasted in butter. She eats 2 eggs flattened out, which I don't know what flattened out eggs are, but I'm curious. Then she eats a big bowl of strawberries. That'll last me until around 3 p.m. And then I got to have my main meal to have my energy, my nourishment. Those are the words she's using. She's not using macros. She's not using protein. She's just like, hey, it's fucking energy, man. I just need to eat food to make it work for me. And this is what this is kind of found her happy medium. That lady is also, she looks great for 100. I've seen plenty of 60-year-olds that don't look that good.
Yeah.
But the truth of it is that the language that she's using, I think, is healthier.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? It's such a much better way to think of food as fuel in the general context. Like, I just love and then at the end of the night, I have a little bowl of ice cream. Yeah, great. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what she does throughout the day, but she's 100 years old. She's earned the right to do nothing. But she seems like she could just then go do some laundry, clean the house, go farm, do whatever she's got to do, make phone calls, visit friends, live a life, because she's thinking of her food as that'll last me until whenever. In the moments that she's hungry, that she'll need food, she's eating something she enjoys.
Yeah.
Like, what a positive way to think about it.
There's a strategy, a dietary strategy called intuitive eating, where it's just like whatever you think your body needs at that moment. And it's like you said, like when you get too over scientific, what are my macros? What is this? But it's like, if you really did went through and tried to break down her macros for breakfast, she has a bunch of good carbs. I'm guessing the bread she's using too is like good bread. Where I'm guessing she seems like the type of person who would bake her own bread. Yeah. So she's sitting on for the audio listener, she's sitting on a porch on what looks like a farm. Yeah, so I'm guessing it's probably some sort of oat bread, which oats have tons of protein in it. So she's getting the oats so she got the protein, the carbs, frying in butter. Butter has both fat and protein. Then she's getting the 2 eggs, so it's about, just between the 2 eggs, probably about 12 to 15 grams of protein. Then she's getting a whole bowl of strawberries, and that's fiber. Tons of fiber, got some good sugar in there. Strawberry is a very low glycemic index, but still getting those in there. And then that'll last her until 3 p.m. She has her main meal. She didn't say what it was, but I'm guessing it's probably some sort of classic meatloaf,
Country,
mashed potato, green beans,
some country eating.
big old
Yeah, why
biscuit.
not? Yeah.
And then for later on, before she goes to bed, she has ice cream. And I hate to say this, but ice cream does have protein in it.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing, the eggs she's getting are probably from her laid that day.
Yeah.
Fresh eggs, not from whatever we're buying it from. The bread probably absolutely everything closer to the source.
Yeah.
That's like a new kind of thought of like when I was talking about getting a big like a sirloin in a bag where you chop it up yourself and you figure I butchered is the wrong word because it sounds like a butcher would know what they're doing. Destroyed this thing and it's still meat, like it's still fresh, like, but it's not. I know what's in it is like a key psychological component to me. Like when I eat at work, eat my food at work, we have chicken. I do chicken thighs, beans, and when I make the beans myself, like from dry, I know what's in there. Like I put the seasoning in there, I put the water in there, I put the whatever. A chicken breast, I wish I could get it fresh from somewhere, like the chicken thigh, whatever, the actual chicken. I wish I could get it whole and carve the chicken myself, so I know it came off a chicken that I did it myself. I wish I could grow the chicken. I can get the, like I don't want to be a butcher, but also like that feels like the best way to get close to the source of your food.
Yeah.
And when it comes to all the other ingredients, I'm sure she's not eating low fat, nothing. She's not eating any science experiments. She's eating ice cream. She's eating ice cream with the full cream proteins in there. She's eating ice cream with the milk fats in there. You know what I mean? Like she's not eating low fat, nothing. And that to me is like kind of an interesting thought of like how close can you get to the source of your food? Pretty close. Whole Foods, pretty close. Like not the restaurant, not the supermarket, but like the concept. We are limited in this country by the supermarket industrial mega complex, but it's still possible, to get close to the source, as close as possible to the source of your food.
It's funny. I was watching this food scientist, and they were discussing dairy in society and how there's this weird period where everybody hated dairy. They're like, "Oh, dairy's going to kill you," and he said the most recent surveys say it's not going to kill you. It's actually pretty good for you. He's like the claims about calcium saving your bones or whatever are probably not as accurate as they said before, but it's still it's very nutritious. It's there's nothing wrong with drinking another species milk when it's cow's milk. People, it's not human milk. It's like, yeah, it's fine. We're eating those animals too. So
yeah, I always laugh at that though, because I don't we all love interspecies friendships? And when you see like a dog raising a bunch of kittens, feeding it their milk,
yeah,
that cat's fine. You know what I mean? Like it happens in nature,
Like babies only drink milk, and that's all they need. It's a perfect food source. And it's funny too. He also said for the longest time, I've been like, I'm not going to drink skim milk. I think it's not tasty at all. I prefer the whole milk. Take whole milk. I'm willing to take the hit on the nutritional value of the excess calories, whatever it was. And he said there's very little difference. Fat content, sugar content between skim and whole milk.
It's the same
because he said
watered down. You think
like skim milk is 0%, then there's 1% and 2%, and then it's whole milk. And he said whole milk was 3%.
Yeah, it's like the same. It's like the difference is negligible.
He said it's whole milk is just 3%. It's a bad branding of it. If you actually wanted whole milk, you would get full fat cream.
Yes,
But people think whole milk means full fat cream, but a whole milk is just 3%.
This is a whole. At the end of the podcast, we get into this. Like everything you know about food, like the trends of food, are usually started by one crazy racist motherfucker. That is literally why people think MSG is bad.
Yeah.
And that is literally why the low fat craze started in the 70s into the 80s, where it really blew up, forcing McDonald's to stop using beef tallow to make their French fries.
Yeah.
Now, I will die on this hill that beef tallow is better for you as animals than processed plant oils. We've all heard about the seed oils now. Like plant oils, I think are good. We're going to loop back around to going back to lard, pig fat, and beef tallow, beef fat, and schmaltz, which is chicken fat.
Chicken fat, yeah.
I believe that we are going to see in the next decades to like a rise in that. One, because a lot of more food science is going to be done on those things, on plant oils. It's going to be like, we're going to learn that corn oil is like a nightmare for you, and canola and vegetable and all of these things are bad for you. And then we're going to learn, and also because society will collapse and people will start farming again, and we're going to have a whole lot of extra animals fat lying around in our homes, and we're going to be like, what do I do with this? There's going to be a push for natural animal fats in cooking again, and it's going to be a revelation as to how much better it is in terms of flavor and in terms of like not having like excess unnatural things we shouldn't have been eating at that concentration anyway.
Yeah. It's
whenever people are like, oh, we shouldn't be drinking the milk of cows, because it's like, all right, what's almond milk? Is that natural?
No, it is hyper processed. It uses so much more water. There's a whole veganism is based in white supremacy. There's like all of these cultural things that happen, and I'm not exaggerating. Like the deeper you look, the more conspiratorial it all gets. Where the privilege of being able to do some of these things is deeply rooted in a system that does not account for access, and like statements like that are based in very narrow, privileged thinking.
Yeah,
so
the classic example is organic. Whatever, where it's like, you should eat organic chicken because it's more ethically sourced and blah blah blah, and it costs $5 more, but it's better for you. And then but that's when I saw that movie Food Inc. Do you remember that one where I was like, look at these chickens, they're living in such horrible conditions. I'm like, good. Fuck those chickens.
Fuck those chickens.
Those chickens are gonna feed poor people who cannot buy the organic shit. Fuck those chickens. I care about human beings more.
There's a lot. So there's a lot to unpack in that scenario. We always build up to this climactic kind of like hyper, exaggerated statements at the end of the podcast. There are absolute real reasons to think this way. There are, of course, these are the type of things that I'm not going to walk into a conversation being like, yeah, you organic piece of shit, you fucking classist monster, you capitalist pig. But it's all true. But the idea of like, how do you incorporate this knowledge into your life, knowing that to a certain amount, a lot of the stuff that we know about food, like the food pyramid, is marketing.
Yeah.
From the industries that want you to eat more of their shit. Got milk ads was marketing. So take all of that, and you have to unlearn that milk does a body good. Then relearn that it's not a marketing ploy, that why milk does a body good. Not just because they tell you, but why. 6 to 7 servings of grains a day, farming industry, how about you go fuck yourself? That is not good. Organic, I guarantee you that 100-year-old lady sitting on the porch that has more access to organic foods than we do, but the life she leads is one that allows that access.
Yeah.
As much as you don't want to admit, that's a privileged existence to not have to buy stuff from a supermarket, right? Is that farm that they live on inherited wealth? Yes. 100%. It's so once you broaden your scope as to like what things actually mean, there is a definite like seeing behind the curtain of things that sometimes you wish you didn't, because then now you have to deal with knowing it. So
I think to your point, I'll give you an example. Is I mentioned somebody that every day for breakfast I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my breakfast.
I love that.
And they were like, that's not a breakfast food. They were like, I was like, well, what's breakfast food? And they said bacon and eggs. And I said, the bacon industry wanted to sell more bacon. So in the 60s and 70s, they put out an ad program that a full breakfast isn't complete without bacon and eggs.
Right. The most important meal of the day, also propaganda.
So
You know?
it's in other cultures they have soup for breakfast. In other
Yeah,
cultures they have
yeah.
fish for breakfast. They have prosciutto for breakfast or whatever it is. It's like your concept of what breakfast can be is so limited based on capitalism and marketing. Yeah.
6 pieces of bread fried in butter. How much harder can breakfast get? But once you learn that you're constantly being marketed to and propagandized, that it becomes this thing of like, okay, now you know, what are you going to do? And for us, we've turned it into this podcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to dismount today with the same thing we do every week. We're going to focus on the topics body, mind, and community. Starting with body, Will, what are your focuses for this upcoming week to incorporate into your life to focus on the wellness of your body?
This week, I will not be. I'm not scheduled to work as much overtime, so I can actually go back to a more consistent workout schedule, including productive rest days. As in, I don't have to do any sort of overexertion, and I'll just focus on those days being as rested as possible.
So productive rest days. Nice. I like that a lot. I think that I have had too many rest days. I've been like, one of my struggles is always incorporating exercise into the days where I work because I work nights. So I'm obsessive about my sleep. But I think my focus is on this next shift of days. I'm working extra, working a little overtime, trying to make some money. That I'm going to have to incorporate some physical activity those days. Otherwise, I will be working out fewer days than working out in the, you know what I mean? Like, there's less time spent working out than resting. So I think I will have to do productive rest days in the reverse, like taking my work days and incorporating some sort of physical activity. If it's like when I get home tired in the morning, maybe just go straight to the gym and do treadmill or something, like just to get a sweat going before I go to bed. Give myself something to sleep about. Or something. I don't know. Definitely incorporating my PT on the days that I work has been vital for my back health.
Yeah.
So I think that active on work days is my it's tricky balancing night shift.
Yeah.
With physical exercise because you are just a zombie the whole time. What about the mind? We'll start with I definitely love the recognizing the obsession, that discernment that you said.
Yeah.
Like figuring out where the line of anecdote is versus like something that I can take it, like receiving all of this information, discerning what is important and then cutting out what isn't. You know what I mean? Like someone else's story may not be exactly relatable to me, but it is there's a piece of it that I can then take and adapt it into my life. The Bruce Lee of it all, the Jeet Kune Do of it all, taking what works in one form and using it in your own, creating your own style of no style. But that idea of discerning, like breaking down really what people talk about and making it work, the pieces work for you. I think that's good for more than just a workout advice. You know, what about you? What's your mind goal for the
I think
week?
it's to not be an expert for the week. Maybe I'll just try to because even if I'm not talking to other people, in my head you're always an expert in your own mind, whatever you're doing. It's that classic thing of when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you might pretend that you're on the Food Network and, well, now I'm putting it, but so it's like in my own head, try to not be an expert and to say, why am I doing this? And question myself.
I cut the crust off. This is an uncrustable, ladies and gentlemen, revolutionary food item to like an audience of nobody. Well, that's it. That's exactly what you're talking about. The 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that don't think you know everything is a valuable tool to learn everything.
Yeah. I mean, even the 2 ears, 1 mouth thing, not only is it towards other people, it's towards yourself. Don't talk over your own thoughts.
Bro, That's been so hard with the whole ADHD thing, because that is what ADHD feels like.
Yeah.
You're just talking over yourself in your own brain, where you're like, fuck, no, go back to that other thing. I was thinking something important. I didn't need to think this other thing. Why are you thinking other things? Like that. That's genuinely.
It's like you said about the thinking about what you're going to say while the other person is talking, except the other person is you.
Yes, that's exactly right. And for the community, Will, how are you going to take that knowledge? Because now you're going to be the listener, really. How do you take that energy out into the world and share it with people?
I can do something I haven't done in a while, which is just straight up people watching, but not in a creepy way, but like,
it's gonna be hard for you not to do it in a creepy way. Put your tongue back in your mouth, Will.
But because I'll often think about that, like if I see like a homeless person and they're behaving in a certain way, sometimes like, oh, that's crazy. But then I'm like, oh, I see the way they're folding their blanket and they're putting it in their bag in a certain way because it saves more space. And then it's like, oh, that's interesting. And I've actually started doing that with my own gym clothes, where I'll have the sweaty clothes and then I'll wrap the sweaty clothes in my workout towel so that the sweat doesn't get into my bag. And I'm like, oh, the homeless guy was onto something.
Also, I think that humanizes somebody where like, oh, at one point they learned how to do this organized thing. That means that they weren't always, like this way, or they still retain some semblance of like, like everybody's human, they're just different, going through different circumstances. I think that is also kind of a valuable lesson in that way also. Because if you're not the expert, if you can take from every situation something to learn from,
yeah,
including even seeing someone who you don't share any real life experience with, you never know. It may not be now, but in the past, you may have both been in the same circumstances or something. So don't immediately dismiss everything about that person just because of one weird thing. Now, if they are crazy, you have to use your discernment to kind of break down what's healthy and what's not.
I think I would like to add on to that, where it's kind of my thing about striking up conversations with people and making friendships. I wonder if I could do this in the gym, which is sometimes I'll see somebody doing an exercise like you were talking about before, where I don't recognize it. And I could, that's a good way to strike up a conversation or meet new people. To say, hey, I've never seen that variation before. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, be curious. Curious conversations. Yeah, I like
curious
that a
conversations.
lot.
I like that.
Curious. That sounds like
we got a new podcast name. We got a new
podcast name. Curious Conversations. Stay tuned. But it sounds like a Richard Smalley thing from.
Oh yeah.
Like deep thoughts. It's like Curious Conversations, and it's. Do you ever look at a homeless guy and think, man, that guy knows how to fold clothes?
And you're like, hey, sir, why are you folding it that way? And he's like, listen.
He's like, the satellites are in my brain. Whoa, hey, all right. I was just asking about how you do your ranger roll on your. I like that in a similar context. I think your approach of curious conversation will make you a good guest in people's lives. I like the concept. Don't be a bad guest in other people's lives. Yeah. Like if you're going to be, like I said, if I don't want that to happen to me, if I don't want someone to be kind of engaging me in a negative way, being a bad guest and kind of assuming and all these things, I want to then also emulate that in others, do unto others. I want to be treated a certain way. That'll be what I do. I don't want to be a bad guest in other people's lives. So I want to like kind of be a positive, or at the very least, not a negative thing around other people at work, my relationships, all that stuff. I like the idea of like, I'm a guest. I should act like a guest, Yeah,
you just be lawful neutral.
Lawful neutral. I mean, to a certain extent, being lawful neutral is good. This is all D&D shit I hope everybody understands that there's like, this was a nerd podcast first. But yeah, the idea of like, sometimes what people need or will view as good is somebody who is neutral in their life. Like, I'm just here, I'm present. I don't have to be telling you what to do. I don't have to be, if I'm a chaotic element, that's bad. If I'm, I never thought about it in terms of the D&D alignment chart. But yeah, like true neutral, or even lawful neutral. Like, my oath is to be as neutral in everybody's life as possible if I can't be good.
Yeah.
You know, if I can't help, I will do no harm, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That feels like kind of a universal goal to be able to take out into the world. Everybody, we did it. We came to the end of the show. We succeeded in completing a good podcast. Spider-Man. Is that what you're doing?
I don't know. I think I was just doing jazz hands, a variation.
All right, Doctor Strange, we got it. Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man. Everyone got cool hand movements.
Snow White.
What's the? Yeah, I'm going to do praying mantis. The Collateral Benefit is on the Zeros on Heroes podcast, the Zeros on Heroes podcast network. You can follow us at Zeros on Heroes on all social media, at Mike Mercadal, at William A. Watkins on social media. You're William A. Watkins 1 on
Instagram. Yeah.
And if you have any questions or you want to tell us something that you're doing that is improving your life and you've discovered a collateral benefit of your own, mind, body, and community, whatever it is, send an email to zerosonheroes@gmail.com. We will read it on the air. We had one last episode. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Will, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we go?
The only other thing I have to say is, hey, man, you're looking really good.
Just trying to look like you, bro. Old title. And to keep the things going. Actually, you know what I was thinking about? If you're here and you go to Zeros on Heroes, and if you go to any podcast feed, you can listen to old episodes of Zeros on Heroes. And I have found some really, I had to archive a bunch of stuff on my, like, it was taking up room on my hard drive. And I found some really good ones. And one of them I just recently found was the one that we did about Laird Hamilton.
Oh, the surfer,
with Dave Kinney. Go back and listen to that episode. That was a super fun episode. It's way back in the list. Just search in the podcast feed and go back and listen to some old episodes because they were really fun. And I miss talking about people, like talking to people about what they find heroic. What a fun thing, man. We gotta start bringing that back too, because it was genuinely like a positive thing in our lives to have talked to people about who they love and are respectful of, you know? Will is frozen, but I guess the power of the history of Zeros on Heroes was enough to knock him out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and on Twitch at Zeros on Heroes on all the platforms. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to go out and be